So there. So now you should all have the Google Doc, and I just so you, as a warning, I am recording, which I'm not trying to scare you, just so you know, I will be recording from now on. So when I went, when I went here, what I thought was really interesting was I told you that this work has been done before. So we're doing this PASST, the P-A-S-S-T. Hold on, I'm not going to see. Shoot, I thought I had it up. But what was really interesting to me was that this actually existed right here on the NCSS. And now I Googled the wrong thing, I guess, and it's not coming up. But I was shocked that the PASST history assessment for U.S. history was on here. So I wanted to show you. Here we go. So on actually the NCSS website, socialstudies.org, David Johnson, Rebecca Bush, Rebecca Bush is out of Ottawa area ISD. David Johnson's the Northern Michigan Learning Consortium. They did this work, and this Moodle that I'm going to take you to is actually here through the NCSS. It's actually recognized by the National Council of Social Studies. So for a little credibility of the work that you're in the middle of, you can see where it's actually housed. So if you want to type in to follow along, if you want to type in, it's PASST, P-A-S-S-T, Moodle. I'll write it over here as well. .wmisd.org. Okay? So if you get there, this is going to actually take you to a Moodle. If you so choose, you can create an account here and do that. But for right now, I'm going to simply, because I'm on this public computer, I'm just going to click login as guest, and you can as well for the moment. Actually, for the moment, just do login as guest, and then I'll let us all create an account in a second. So what I wanted to do here was kind of set a context. Some of you have been along the journey with me the whole way, or you've at least heard my spiel, so I'm going to go kind of quickly for those that haven't. Basically, this PASST project is we took the Common Core State Standards and those literacy pieces, and we talked about the application. Also, the C3 standard framework the C3 framework came out, which we'll dive into in a little bit. In the process of all that, when I was doing the literacy and social studies professional development, a lot of times social studies folks would get very engaged and then go, wait a minute, this is about writing, or it's about reading. Be like, yeah, well, that's what the literacy standards are focused on. And so David and Becky and another team, so there were others across the state, decided to put this project in order to say, you know what, let's create some performance assessment-like assessments and put them in a social studies context. So on this website, you can see, originally they did all their research in 11-12. So then 2 years ago, they did this first round of teacher trainings. So you know where I stand on this journey. That's when I got on board, was in that first round of teacher training. And I actually participated as a participant that year. I had not done the research per se with them or gathered it, but I jumped in and I participated as a participant. So I was knowing that I was going to host a cohort here at Kent ISD last year. So in 12-13, I participated and wrote a couple of question items and went through that process. Then last year, I hosted kind of that whole series up front. And what I did along with that is that while I was hosting that, I also then was running it in a local district and kind of sharing the message and the work that was out there. And so what they did here was they kind of built the thinking around depth of knowledge, the complexity, the difficulty, kind of talking about what is assessment. They looked at what makes a good assessment question. They looked at samples of selected response, which is your multiple choice, constructed response, which is like your 2 to 3 sentence answer, or a small essay. They looked at all the question types, and so there's a whole course. So this whole entire course is background knowledge you can build from. And I'm going to show you in a second how I've actually developed that professional development I did last year that you're going to be able to access so that you can go back and review sections as you need to or as you feel you need to based on what's not necessarily making sense as we go through the work this year. You actually could even earn additional clock hours if you wanted to do the entire course. I'll show you that in a second. So while I was then redoing this initial training here in 13-14, David, Becky, and others were leading teachers like this team through 5th grade, 8th grade, and U.S. history. All right? So over the course of last year, they created these, which I'm going to actually show you that they've completed. And that's the most amazing part to me, right? Is like we always start these projects, but this project was completed. So your 5th grade, 8th grade, and U.S. world history or U.S. history folks are going to have something immediately. We now are in the process of doing what was happening last year, but around the world history strand. So 6th grade, 7th grade, and world. So at the end of this year, it'll probably be more like August, but he did have those U.S. histories. David did a lot of legwork, which you'll see the legwork he had to do, and he committed to it and got it done. I mean, David and the team. They actually have those U.S. history assessments out there, which in next fall, they'll have those world history assessments out there. So you'll be able to kind of develop some questions and do some things in the now, but this is really going to set you up for even next school year, which is pretty awesome. I mean, it's pretty awesome that we can turn it around on this time frame because you think about all the standards you're accountable for, and you also know that we have 6th, 7th, and high school, the World History High School course in the room. So you're going to get to hear some of that conversation, participate in some of that dialogue, so you're going to have an idea of where kids are coming from, or where they've been, and where they're going as you go into this assessment piece. You'll see that we're going to continue on then. So as the World History Pilots will be next fall, next year I'll run a cohort like this around 3rd grade staff, 4th grade staff, and then government and econ. And that will kind of complete the whole assessment levels that will go there. What was generated of this were testlets. So there's sections of tests that work, I think, great for your unit assessments to kind of walk you through that year. A lot of what I think I heard you saying you guys were looking for as being a part of the work. So that's kind of the timeline that was followed. Any questions about that before we dive into what was actually generated?
As we're working on this, will we be able to see others' work, or is it only our work that we'll be able to see?
I'm not exactly sure how that goes. I think most likely you will see others' work in that you will possibly be kind of doing a process called jurying or evaluating their work. So we'd be using a rubric that we'd go through and say, does this match the content expectation? What might we do differently? Do the answer choice? So there's a whole what we call jurying process that we'll talk about. So you most likely will at least be seeing a select few as you'll be kind of jurying them. But I believe to answer it more holistically, you'll be able to see them in the raw because we're going to submit them on the Google Doc. Yeah. Okay, that's fine. We'll add it. Yep. Any other questions about the timeline so far? Okay, great. Well, what I want to do then is let's go ahead and let you get signed up if you didn't already, and that's going to give me a chance to log in, and then I'll start showing you some of the samples that were actually generated for that U.S. history course, U.S. history course. Okay.